or not, Nebraska football is going to host a transfer portal camp for postgraduates. I would think others have done this. I think California, Colorado were a couple of them. So how does this work?
Well, I mean, if you're in the portal and you're a grad transfer, you head on up to Lincoln and get yourself to the camp, and, then people can come and watch you, and you'll get some tape and all of that so you can send out to people at this camp.
Remember Vince Ginta? Used to be at Baylor. Now they're a player personnel and also recruiting coordinator or director. He was quoted in this article by Chris Hummer quite a bit. But they're going to have like a little basically transfer portal camp. Could you do that? Can you do that? You can't do that with those who are not grad transfers.
It's all postgraduates.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was asking. There's no way you could get around that. So he's going to be at a camp at Mary Hardin Baylor, I think that first week in June. And then the week after that, that's when they also have that fullback camp. But a transfer portal for postgraduates, there may be 5 who show up or might be 50. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Does that give them any advantage that they're the ones hosting that event?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like if you're a guy who's going to a postgraduate camp, that something went wrong along the way to where you're not already landing somewhere. Mm-hmm. That's just my opinion on it. Maybe it's like the NFL draft and quality players fall through the cracks and go undrafted. But I feel like even those players, there's a pretty good profile on them. And some of them are borderline NFL, college, or not players. And that's why they go undrafted. And there's some fringe guys that maybe should have got drafted in the 7th round, but, the Packers wanted to get cute and, draft this guy, Mr. Irrelevant or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I think we see a lot of throwaways sometimes in those last couple of rounds. Like, it's like, let's get cute and draft, like, the guy
Rico Gathers.
Yeah, like let's just draft this guy because it's a fun story. Not that we could really use like a guy who's played tight end for 4 years at a Division I university, but let's get the basketball player. So yeah, there's things like that sometimes happen, and that's one spot taken up. So that's one less guy that gets drafted that probably should have been. So there are people that fall through the cracks, but I mean, is this a game changer? I don't think so. I think it's just trying to, maximize the rules and maximize what you can do in terms of finding talent. And, if you find a guy who makes a difference for you, then it was well worth it. But if you don't, then, at least you probably learned something along the way, and you either make this an annual thing or you don't revisit it. But I don't know. It seems like, an interesting idea, and maybe something, is able to come from their efforts.
One of the things that this includes, when we think about the transfer portal of schools, Autonomy 5 or the G5s, whatever, this could be for someone who's in the transfer portal who's graduated from an NAIA school or from a Division II school or a junior college who might have eligibility, obviously, and then maybe, like you said, just somebody that, wow. And if anything, it doesn't mean you're going to get a scholarship, but you might get a walk-on opportunity at whatever school it's going to be.
Well, yeah, I don't think, like, there's no negatives for Nebraska on this.
No.
It's all pluses. I mean, maybe they find somebody. It's good PR for them. It's going to let their coaches see more players up close and anybody. Yeah, there's no, if you can do it, why not?
Yeah, they're not the first. Like, there's other schools have allowed postgraduates. So, this is not as though they're the very first to do this. I guess it's just, it's interesting. It's Matt Rhule, and it's advertising it a little bit. But, they're not reinventing the wheel here. They're just doing it in more of, it's more public or more well-known, more advertised, like I said. But, yeah, I mean, there's going to be high school graduates that will be a part of this camp, apparently. And so it's a little mixture of things, but mostly the focus there on that on those postgraduates. And, again, we'll see if anything comes from that. They've long been known for their walk-on program, even though that was a couple of decades ago now at this point. We're still revisiting the glory years of, what Tom Osborne had. I mean, that's been over and done for a long time, but it's smart on Matt Rhule's part to go up there and try to, rekindle something there as best he can, because there was absolutely an advantage to, having those guys on that roster. And you can't do it exactly the way you could do it back then, but he's trying to find ways to make them better. And whether that's copying something that somebody else has done or coming up with something entirely new, doesn't matter to me if I'm a Nebraska fan. I'm just hoping they find some talent with this camp or wherever else they look.
They need it.
And I'll throw this out there. What if So say you need 3 spots on the roster, right? By the time this camp's there.
Sorry, Paul. To be clear, this is just the first time they said, like, this is a postgraduates camp. Like, postgraduates have been able to work out of camps, but this is a postgraduates camp.
And Colorado and Cal apparently have done this or have it on the schedule too.
But if I'm June 20th and I need 3 guys on the roster, I need, somebody who's going to be my third guard and somebody who's going to be a safety and all that, and I'm getting down to brass tacks, I maybe want just give me some grad transfers in there that might make me feel better than anything else. So, yeah, I mean, it could work out well for you that you have somebody with some experience in there. Now, maybe, like you said earlier, Craig, that these guys weren't exactly ripping it up when they left, but you do feel better about them. Kind of like Baylor and the Luke Anthony, the quarterback that they got from Louisiana Tech last year, that the intent was – Luke Anthony should never play in a game. If he does, it's probably bad. But if it's that scenario, we've at least got a guy here who is capable of doing
taking
it.
snaps
Who's
in
taking
college.
snaps, and it's not you don't have to, shrink down the playbook or anything like that. I think that's worth it. And look, it's also to be noted that, Matt Rhule is a big walk-on guy as well. I mean, he appreciates that. So walk-ons, grad transfers, people who fall through the cracks, he kind of prides himself on being able to kind of find those guys.
All right, let's break here.